Welcome back to the Stephen Knight Show. Thank you for joining us this Monday as we kick off season 12 of the show. I can't believe it's been 11 years. We're on our 12th season, so we definitely appreciate you for joining us, rocking with us over the years. Tonight, we welcome two very talented musicians that you have to know about. One's Mariah. She has a new single called Material Girl, and it's not what you think it's about. So stick around and hear her story. And then we have B-Boy Soul. He has his debut project. He's worked with some of the greats, and he was discovered by Raheem Devon, who is also a friend of the show, and he has a new album out called Back to Love that dropped last Friday. So he tells us all about it and what we can expect from him. But we got to break down the latest and hot topics. Now, there's a lot going on with COVID and people's private lives and personal. So Lynia, unfortunately, is dealing with a personal issue. She's not joining us tonight, but she's well, and we're praying for her and her family. And Nayyir, he has a lot. Well, he's announced this, I can tell. I knew this a long time ago that his wife was pregnant, but she had the baby, and they have a doctor's appointment this evening. So wishing them well. But we have a fill-in who Nayyir handpicked himself. The lovely Cleopatra has joined us.
That's for sure.
Welcome.
Cleopatra, we said we love your name, and what was your reason behind your name, you said?
My mom is overdramatic, and I am the firstborn, so that's why my name is Cleopatra. I was actually named after a Black exploitation movie called Cleopatra Jones. So she loved the name, and that's
how you
love to that.
Well, thank you for joining. I know it was last minute, so we appreciate you.
No problem.
And Chike, how you feeling?
Sir,
12?
I am blessed by the best. I'm glad we're back, and I'm ready to get to it.
Most definitely. Well, listen, don't forget we're all over social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course our official website is StephenKnightShow.com, where you can purchase your merch, or you can find out more about us, our team, and just see what we have going on. Again, this is season 12. We're very excited about that. Before we get into the question of the day, I have to tell you about our MLK event. Since we started the show almost 12 years ago, we've always found ways of giving back around the holidays, and even in the last 5 years or so around MLK Day. And what we do is usually raise money, we donate money, and we find causes that are dear to us that we like to support. In the last 4 or 5 years, it's been the homeless community. And so this year we were able to raise money. It was more difficult because of COVID, but we did raise money. We bought items for care packages put together, and we always take food and hot coffee because it's usually cold that time of year. Well, this year on MLK Day, the weekend before MLK Day, it snowed. And so we were debating on what we were going to do, but then we got calls from some of the companies that we work with who also help the homeless. And their mission was to get people off the streets, get them in homes, hotels, shelter. And so they were asking for monetary donations to help with that cause. So what we did was we donated to those organizations that were doing that. And then we decided to hold off on our care package distribution until the following Saturday, which was this past Saturday. And we showed up at 10 o'clock at Hurt Park here in Atlanta, downtown Atlanta, Georgia. And there were actually other companies out there passing out items, food, hot plates. Nice. Really good food. They had offered us some, but we didn't take them on our offer just because we were so busy and we were headed out. But we were able to pass out the care packages. Everyone was so appreciative of it. My niece, she was in town for her birthday, her and her best friend, and they helped us distribute. And you could just see how they were impacted by it, helping and being of good service. So we want to especially thank everyone who supported us in this, everyone who donated and who has continued to donate us over the years. We definitely appreciate you. Every dime goes to giving back and helping out. So we appreciate you allowing us to make that happen. All right. So our question of the day. Now, this is a tricky one. I had to think about this. Would you rather be the best player on a horrible team or the worst player on a great team? Cleopatra.
This is funny that you asked that because I definitely was the worst player on a great team. So I played softball when I was probably like 6th, 7th grade. Okay. I was so trash. All I could do was run, and I really enjoyed it. And so I'll go with worst player on the best team.
Okay. What about you, Chike?
I probably would want to be the worst player on the best team.
I'd probably be the best player on the worst team, just because you never know who's watching and can see the potential of what you could be on a better team. So you never know. But tweet us at home and let us know, would you rather be the best player on the horrible team or the worst player on the great team? All right. Our Twitter handle is Stephen Knight Show, SHO. All right, so in the hot topics, Ari Lennox, the R&B singer, recently let off some tweets regarding an interview where she was asked about her sex life. And she made it clear that she didn't appreciate the way the question was asked. As a result of the inappropriate question, Ari Lennox also stated she is done doing interviews. Now, during a recent interview with Mac G of Podcast and Chill, Ari Lennox was blindsided when he blurted out and asked her if someone was effing her good right now. Ari was visibly caught off guard by the comment, and though she tried her best to recover while answering the question, she definitely was not pleased. She took to social media and posted a series of tweets explaining how she actually felt, and breaking the news to her fans that she's likely done giving interviews for good. She's like, I'm just like, why was I alone on a call full of people? Why didn't anyone intervene? And why wasn't parts of the interview destroyed like the team promised? Why did it happen to begin with? I just feel slow and ambushed and blindsided, but F it. I don't want anyone feeling sorry for me. I'm tired of the narrative, exhausted. I'm good, I promise. But as for interviews, I'm not doing any more. There's enough lives and interviews out there already. Now, Mac G has not publicly responded to Ari's comments about the question about her sex life. I watched the clip, and I believe it's on Instagram. He asked her that, and she was caught off guard, but he said, well, you've talked about it in your songs. And she was like, did I? And then she realized she did say something like that in the songs, but people were saying it was still inappropriate. And it wasn't like she had a problem with what he asked her, it was how he asked her. Chike, let me ask you, do you think he was out of line?
So we're in the media business, and everybody has their own style. Everybody does their own thing. There's shock jocks, there's controversial ones, there's more hardline news ones, more closer to real journalism. I blame it on not having media training. There's all different kinds of journalists out there. You're going to encounter them if you're going to be in this business. How you handle them is where it is. Not so much the journalists themselves. They're going to be who they are. So, I mean, if he was trying to get ratings, if he was trying to get clicks, if he's trying to get notoriety, of course they're going to be shocking. They're going to do things to stir up the interview, but it's up to the artist or whoever's being interviewed to be able to handle it. That's why they used to have media training. So
I think she did actually handle it well. If you watch it, like, she looked shocked, but she just said, I'm chilling right now,
But I don't think that she should stop doing interviews. I don't think.
And there are a lot of artists who do not do interviews. Beyonce doesn't do interviews. A lot of the larger stars who, and I think a lot of it's for this very reason. Cleopatra, do you think, what do you think about this? Do you think he was out of line? Do you think that this should stop her from doing interviews? Or what are your thoughts on all this?
Yeah, I think it probably speaks to like a larger context as to like who her manager is and who her press team are. Because if that's not something that she's willing to talk about, if she has a lot of boundaries in terms of what she decides to talk about during an interview, then that needs to be set up front. So I think part of that is a problem. And then I know based on some of her other history that, she's had some issues in the past with press in terms of the way people look at her or judge her. And so I think it's not just particularly about this particular interview, but more about people not respecting her boundaries and not respecting her in general.
Yeah. Now,
I mean, Stephen, how many times do we get a list of questions? Like, what are you going to ask? We're not
talk about. Yeah, we get that all the time. But I was going to ask you because, with the journal or the podcast interviewer, he said, well, this is what you talk about in your music. Does that give, and this is for both of you, does that give him a pass to ask those kind of questions to her?
No, music is entertainment, right? So just because someone speaks about something or talks about something in their music doesn't mean that is specifically what they want to talk about in their real life. You know, sometimes music is a reflection of what they see in society. Sometimes music is about themselves, but what an artist decides to put on a track is not necessarily means, oh, I want you to know about my personal life.
Right, yeah. Chike, what do you think?
So, in the vainness of journalism, I'm going to push back on that and say, if it's a product that she's getting paid for and that's why she's having the interview in the first place, then yes, he gets to ask you about your music. How he interprets the music is how he interprets it. And it was her place to correct him and set him straight. But he has a right to ask whatever he wants to ask if she's on his platform, and that's why they're having that exchange. Question and answer. She should have answered it in a way that he would never want to ask it again.
I do hope that she does not stop doing interviews, but I hope that this is a lesson to her and her team to prep the interviewer prior to her going on someone's platform.
Yeah, some people drop the ball.
Yeah, exactly. Well, reportedly, Republican Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, Florida has passed its first approval for a bill that takes aim at critical race theory, according to AP News. In the new bill, private businesses and schools would be prohibited from making white people feel discomfort or guilt when speaking about racist past of our country and discrimination. The bill reads in part, an individual by virtue of his or her race or sex does not bear responsibility for actions committed in the past by other members of the same race or sex. Individuals should not be made to feel discomfort, guilt, anguish, or any other form of psychological distress on account of his or her race. Democrats are opposed to this bill and feel as though the bill isn't needed. State Senator Shervin Jones stated, "At no point did anyone say white people should be held responsible for what happened. But I would ask my white counterparts, are you an enabler of what happened, or are you going to say we must talk about history?" Now, critical race theory has become a relevant topic within the last few months. While Texas and Florida are a couple of states in the South that oppose teaching it in schools, California has created an ethic studies class that requires this requirement for students. In 2021, Newsom, which is governor of California, signed and sealed and delivered a bill requiring students to take an ethic studies course that will be needed to graduate high school. Ethics study courses enable students to learn their own stories and those in their classmates, Newsom stated. So let me ask you, Cleopatra, do you think that this bill is necessary in Florida or even anywhere?
Of course not. You know, I'm actually from Florida, and it pains me as a product of Florida public schools that this is something that they're actually pushing for. I think that unfortunately, you know, you have enough large states within the South that don't want to talk about slavery, segregation, civil rights movement, Japanese internment camps during World War II. And this goes back to everything that's wrong with the state of the US right now in race relations, in terms of, you know, systemic racism, in terms of oppression of underrepresented groups. And so, you know, it's sad because these are the kids that are being raised under that.
Chike?
No. And I say that emphatically, but from the bill that you read, right? If we flip that and I'm sitting in a car and a Caucasian cop is approaching me and I slam on the gas to leave because I'm feeling some type of way about my post-traumatic stress because of a white cop approaching me, am I now guilty of a crime? That doesn't make sense to me. So it's like they're creating these laws, but there's a double standard. We're supposed to protect them from their feelings about some stuff their ancestors did, but you're treating me like my ancestors and still keeping me in a state of slavery. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it.
Well, you know, it's interesting for me, you know, and maybe you all feel this way as well. History has been whitewashed so badly. And so there's so many things I can tell you as an adult that I've learned about our history and our past. Chike, I know you talked about movie views about that the music festival that took place in Harlem 1969. Same time Woodstock was going on. I've heard about Woodstock all my life. Never heard about this but this is how history has been whitewashed. And so it's not about making white people feel uncomfortable or feel guilty. It's about teaching history. And so that you can understand each other's cultures, and not just Black and white, but also Asian Americans, Native Americans, Hispanic Americans. Everyone needs to have some kind of understanding so that when you see someone, you're looking at them like, what's that? You can understand a little bit about that person and what's going on in this country and why things are the way they are today. And
how about just even just explaining to a child who's living in this country now, and they have the questions of why are things like this?
Yes.
If you know the past, then you know why things are like this.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And that's, go ahead, Cleopatra.
No, I think one of the main issues, right, is you can't expect for America to progress and become a more tolerant society without learning those ugly parts of our history. And unfortunately, of course, it will make people uncomfortable, but history is uncomfortable, and American history is more so, right? And so it's difficult to know that kids are going through K through 12, coming out of that experience and not knowing very critical parts of these movements that we've had to progress as society. And then as a result, think things like, oh, slavery wasn't that bad, or, oh, you know, we didn't really treat Black people that poorly, or, oh, not knowing anything about Native American history or the genocide that was, you know, perpetrated against them. These are all things that are important to the history of the US and important to how we've progressed as a society.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And like when I see these Karen videos and they say, go back to your country. Whose country is it? I mean, when did it become a white country or a Black, you know what I mean? But let me tell you this real quickly. I was watching on YouTube. Anytime I go on YouTube, I go down this pigeonhole of, you're wondering, well, how I even get here? But one night I got on actual interviews from former slaves. And one of the slaves that was being interviewed, he used to be president of Confederate.
Robert E.
Yes. No, not him. I'm sorry. It was Jefferson Davis. I'm sorry, not president. Jeff Davis. Yeah. Anyway, and so he was saying how, you know, it wasn't bad on him and how Jeff Davis really, you know, wanted his Negroes to be educated so they could do any job. And you know, he grew up in that. So that was his frame of reference. You know, it wasn't as bad for me as it was for other people that I saw. That was pretty much what he was saying. And so I was reading the comments, and this white guy said, yes, slavery was bad, but back then it was like eating a bag of chips. Good to see that Jeff Davis was a good guy. He owned slaves. He owned slaves. You know what I mean? So it's just, what were you gonna say, Chike? I'm sorry.
What I was gonna say is, when you think about it, or when I think about it in its totality, you have, or what the attempt, it seems like, is you want to rewash history again. So you have more generations that are out of touch with the truth, so they can be bamboozled. Knowledge is power, right? If you don't have the knowledge, then you have future generations who can possibly be dumb for your willing. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
They want to keep us ignorant.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, find out about this Virginia teacher who threatened the school board by saying she's bringing guns to the school on Monday because her kids have to wear a mask. And little mama, she criticized a lot of Black women on social media for doing the most. More when we come back right back after this.